Hello, in this video we will discuss about the pituitary gland, their physiology and their basically the dysfunction of the pituitary gland. We will also learn. So this is the brain contain higher brain cortex is known as cerebrum, while this is the prefrontal cortex and the brain stem, cerebellum, for balance, and the occipital lobe here, parietal lobe, frontal lobe. So that is all type of the basically the part of brain, but we are understanding the pituitary gland. And where is the pituitary gland? Pituitary gland is here. This pituitary gland is below the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus is below the thalamus. So this is the hypothalamus, which that contain neurosecretory cell, neuroendocrine cell, basically. While here is the infundibulum containing the here is the adenohypophysis, the anterior pituitary lobe, and the neurohypophysis is the posterior. And posterior require only the blood vessel, not contain cell with pituitary gland. So this is the hypothalamus, the neuroendocrine cell. So the stimulus will, when higher brain cortex receive, will give the signal to the thalamus, to the hypothalamus, and that will give the trigger the production of hormone. When the hypothalamus, for example, produce the corticotropic releasing factors, which that stimulate the adenohypophysis containing cell to stimulate and release the hormone. For example, here is the hypothalamus will stimulate to release the tropic hormone, for example, releasing factors from the hypothalamus. So see, this is the anterior and posterior a part of the pituitary gland, and this is the median lobe, posterior lobe, anterior lobe, and median lobe. Anterior lobe basically contain growth hormone production, corticotropin, ACTH, adrenocorticotropin, while the follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, and basically it is the gonadotropin hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone. And the posterior produce the antidiuretic hormone, vasopressin, and oxytocin. So median lobe produce only one type of hormone is known as melanophore stimulating hormone, which that stimulate the melanin production from the melanocyte in the skin. So remember, let's begin to understand one by one the hormone and releasing. So for example, we will understand the anterior part of the pituitary gland, adenohypophysis, which that is contain cells and adenohypophysis containing cell. So this cell basically release into the blood circulatory system after the stimulation from the hypothalamus. So this growth hormone, for example, produced in the blood vessel, circulate into the blood circulatory system, and this will target to the different tissue, for example, liver, bone, and other cell, muscle, which that will lead to liver to glycogenesis and the insulin-like growth factor production, which that is the important for the glucose regulation and the bone growth and muscle and other cell. While basically it is depend to the growth, while the adrenocorticotropin ACTH is basically target to the adrenal gland, which that produce the cortisol hormone, contain epinephrine, norepinephrine, and the other catecholamine, which that will stimulate the metabolism regulation, glycogenolysis, and degradation as a result of sympathetic nervous system activation, and long term the chronic sympathetic activity. While on the other hand, the normal metabolism is important through these. So here the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone is known as the gonadotropin. Will target to the gonads. A female ovary will stimulate to produce the estrogen and the ovulation, and the Leydig cell target follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone to testes to produce testosterone and dihydrotestosterone. While the thyroid stimulating hormone will produce when target with the thyroid gland to produce the triiodothyronine and thyroxine. These basically target to directly into the DNA because the lipid soluble and will lead to also the thermogenesis, metabolism, and homeostasis. So the thermogenesis is very important, and metabolism, increase the metabolism is very important. So that is the function of thyroid stimulating hormone. While the antidiuretic hormone ADH is basically in which that produced from here is the posterior and median lobe. Let's begin to understand. So the antidiuretic hormone, first we will learn about the antidiuretic hormone. So what is the antidiuretic? Anti mean against, diuretic mean, diuresis mean the urine. So the against the urine, the water will not excrete too much because the prevention of the dehydration. So remember, so the antidiuretic hormone ADH, which they are released from the pituitary gland, the posterior pituitary gland, will target to the nephron. The nephron has the Bowman capsule and glomerulus, proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and collecting duct. So in this way, here is the water which that will be reabsorbed due to the binding of the antidiuretic hormone. And on the other hand, here is the it's very important for regulation of blood pressure, homeostasis, and the prevention of dehydration when we will not take water or take fluid. While the oxytocin is the bonding hormone, also known as the oxytocin, is very important for the bonding with the male and female, the couple system. And on the other hand, here is the lactation of milk, as well as bonding with the child, with the baby, and the parturition decrease the pain. That is why it is also known as the painkiller hormone. And vasodilation. Why vasodilation? Because vasodilation will increase the blood flow, so that is why the decrease of the blood pressure. On the other hand, the melanophore stimulating hormone is the character of the median lobe produced and into the blood circulation due to the stimulus from the higher brain cortex due to the sun bath when exposure to light. And here is the skin which does contain epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. So it will target to the melanocyte are present in the dermis and epidermis, dead cell, which that will be filled with the melanocyte after the stimulation through melanophore stimulating hormone. And the darkening skin during sunbath or pregnancy for protection from UV radiation is very important to understand. So on the other hand, when the some problem will arise due to the pituitary gland problem, can be hypopituitarism is known as when short supply of one or more of the pituitary hormones, when the damage of the pituitary gland due to different complication will lead to cause the several process and several complication. Let's begin to understand that diseases of the pituitary gland can be pituitary tumor. Benign is 99%, while 1% is the malignant. And the hypothalamic tumor, because hypothalamic is very important for trigger the pituitary gland, so that is why if hypothalamus will not work, so the pituitary gland will not work obviously. So the sign and symptoms, let's begin to understand the nausea, vomiting, weakness, feeling cold, and no menses because the follicle stimulating hormone inhibition, luteinizing hormone inhibition, increase the urine because the antidiuretic hormone inhibition, weight loss or weight gain due to the growth hormone decrease, so the adiposity will be increased, and stop growth due to the growth hormone, somatostatin will inhibit. And metabolism disorder and aging. Metabolism disorder is due to the thyroid gland stimulation absence. And diabetes, immunity loss. On the other hand, the stop thermogenesis. Why diabetes? Because the growth hormone inhibition. And the loss of fluid and dysfunction of the reproduction because the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone will not work correctly. So thanks for watching. This was the pituitary gland. So bye.